Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, a company valuation expert in St. Louis, Missouri. During this episode, we will discuss bankruptcy questions with Stephen White, who is actually an ESOP valuation expert and bankruptcy expert in Northern New Jersey. Welcome, Stephen.
Hello, and I'm excited about being here today.
Another question we have about Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It appears, as we've been talking about this, it appears that it's a process that may be suited for larger companies. And I don't know what larger means. We might have to quantify that. But, for smaller and mid-sized businesses, maybe under $1 million in revenue, is Chapter 11 still a viable option? Or does it matter the size of business, really?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a few things that goes into play with Chapter 11. And I'm a big believer of, I like to lay everything on the table and make sure everyone is very clear as far as how this process works. Chapter 11 is a great tool to use for businesses that want to restructure or go through a reorganization. Understand, it is a very expensive process, and it's time consuming. There's a lot of time that goes into this. You may not see the type of business that you once were years ago for some time, for a couple of years. It is a long process. And because it is a long process, it can be very expensive. And there's certain things that go into this that you have to meet on those orders that come from the courts, that you have to hit each one of those dates and times and submitting the paperwork in, making sure you file things appropriately and on a timely manner. So when we had that conversation about going through that reorganization process, it is still your business, but it's not your business over this restructuring period. Someone's coming in and telling you, we need to do certain things at certain periods of times. And we need you to sit down and see, this is the reason why we need to get rid of this. Or this is the reason why you need to restructure your management team, for lack of a better phrase. Maybe you need to move someone out of this role.
And hopefully not the business owner, but sometimes maybe it's true.
So those are hard conversations. Those are some very big things that need to take place. So I'm pulling into, does this suit every company? Yeah. Maybe not so much. Because if you think about it, some of the smaller or mid-sized companies may not have as large of a management team, may not have all the different layers of their overall business. And for them to file for Chapter 11, they're already in debt. And now you want to add or incur another cost on top of it. Because if you think about it, the legal side of it, they're going to want a hefty retainer up front because you're going through bankruptcy right now. So you're going to have to find ways to pay off your creditors. Well, they want to get paid first. So that's another expense. But there's an alternative to this. And if you go back to 2019, towards the middle of the year, towards the end of the year, Congress actually came up with something as an amendment to Chapter 11. It's called Subchapter 5. And that's really designed for those companies that do not have the enormous debt that like a Kmart or Neiman Marcus has. Maybe you're a mid-sized company that has debt that ranges anywhere between $2 to $3 million. Well, this is something that's better suited for them. And in fact, since we're going through our era with the pandemic right now, with the stimulus package that just recently came out, they increased it from 2.7 up to $7.5 million in debt. So that's opened up a window for businesses to participate in this. And the difference between the two is less expensive. It's a little quicker than a Chapter 11. But here's the thing. The courts basically dictate how things are done. So as a creditor, you don't really have any say-so in this. You can petition all you want, but under this, you have more protection as a business owner under Title V. So you can it's still Chapter 11, But because of the amount of debt that you have, that's really where the criteria comes in. The amount of debt that needs to be restructured is going to determine whether or not you fall under the chapter under 5, or if you have to go through the straight chapter 11. And then the other thing is, just to keep in mind, having that initial conversation is always better for a business owner, to have a clear understanding. Okay, which direction do I go into? Sometimes it's even better that you actually just have a conversation with your creditors before you even get into this overall process. Maybe you have some creditors that will actually say, all right, let's work out an arrangement, so therefore you don't have to go through that bankruptcy process.